So now let's get into these devices, right? We've got these devices. How do you hook them up? It's actually quite simple. I don't know. Do you know which ones you guys have in your hands right now?
Roku and a Fire Stick.
Very good. Very good. So as I mentioned, I'm a big Apple fan. I've got two Apple TVs. I've got the original older version and the new 4K version. So I'm very familiar with it. Uh, Obviously, as I mentioned, you're going to need an internet connection. You're going to need a TV, and you're going to need an HDMI cable along with the device, right? And what is an HDMI cable? Well, that's the cable that connects your television to the device so that it can send audio and video signals at a high definition rate. And, I think we all remember the yellow and white and red audio connections that we had on our older televisions, right? We had the yellow for video and the white and red for the audio. And then they sort of, the cables got fatter over time. Well, the evolution of that wiring and that technology has now come to what's called HDMI. And this is what the ends generally look like, right? And one goes in the back of the television and one goes into the back of the device, whether it was the DVD player or a gaming system, and now these streaming devices. There are different standards for these cables. So sometimes if you're purchasing this at the store or you're buying it online, it'll come with a recommendation. And the different versions, it's really about how much bandwidth can be sent through that particular HDMI cord. The device will usually tell you what standard you need, and what it'll usually say it as is 2.0 or 2.1. And so you'll just want to know that and be aware of that. So if you were getting, say, just the HD version or the lowest end model, you wouldn't need a 2.0 version. And why does that matter? Well, you're going to pay a little bit more for it. And so, there's no reason to pay for something more if it's not needed. And so that's just something to keep in mind. One note before I move on from HDMI cables is if you've ever looked at the back of your television or hooking something up, you see these are HDMI ports, right? So this means in this case, it's got 4 ports. You can connect 4 different devices with 4 HDMI cables going out to 4 different things. But one will usually or increasingly will have what's called ARC or ARC. And that stands for HDMI Audio Return Channel. This particular HDMI outlet is really what you should keep for a soundbar. So if you have a soundbar, you want an HDMI ARC cord connecting your TV to that soundbar to get the most premium audio experience there. And then you save the other HDMIs for the actual devices. So that's just something to keep in mind, something I had to learn through the process. I just connected my soundbar to one of these things, and it really wasn't working properly, and I couldn't figure out why, because the TV was new and the soundbar was new. Why isn't this thing working? And then I realized, I needed to stick it into the ARC one. So I learned the hard way. So now hooking up this device, you buy, let's say in this case, you buy the Apple TV, you take it out of the box, you've got the actual little unit, and then you have the remote control. Well, it's going to have depending on which version of the 3rd generation, it has the power port and it has the HDMI port. And in this version, it also has an Ethernet. So if you wanted to directly connect that device via Ethernet to your router. A lot of times that's not feasible, so we just connect via Wi-Fi, and that's totally fine. But that's really it. That's all really you're going to be hooking up. So you're going to take, in this case, the power cord, stick it into there. You're going to take your HDMI cable, stick it into there, and then stick the other end to your television. Setting it up wise, that means putting it on the ledge. In my case, I've got my TV on the wall. So we actually just grabbed this device and used a plastic twist tie and connected it to the back of the television so you can't see any of it, which is pretty cool. The remote doesn't need a direct line of sight. So, it looks very clean on the wall. You can't even see it because it's so small and just hangs on the back of the television. And that's really all there is to it. So once you have that, powered on and connected via HDMI, and you've got your TV on, you're going to have the remote, and you're going to swipe up or down, and you're going to select your country of origin and or your language. It'll also ask you if you want to use Siri. In the case of Apple's remote, it's got a side button here, and that's what you press to then speak into your remote to then give it commands. And I can't tell you enough, sometimes there's a little differences between them, but to give you an example of how great the voice remote is, if you don't already have a voice remote, you can literally press that button and say, watch Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso will start playing. If you're watching a series, it'll open up the next episode that you need to watch. If you could click it and say, play Transformers, Rise of the Beasts. And if you have that through some service that you're already paying for, it'll just start playing that movie. Maybe you want to open the Hulu app, press that button, open Hulu. So you don't even have to navigate anything. You don't have to flip around screens or click. You just press the button and tell it what to do. You can even ask it things like, find TV shows for kids, maybe for your kids or your grandkids, and it'll all of a sudden populate with content available to you that you can immediately on demand start watching. If you're in the YouTube app, you could say, show me a video of the fastest car. And all of a sudden, these videos will show up of fast cars. Really does change the experience of trying to find stuff and to get extra information. So that was the Apple TV. Now let's, in this case, look at the Roku. And in this case, we're looking at the Roku streaming stick. But, I mean, incredibly easy to set up. There's really no difference in the process, right? So here's the device. In this case, it's a stick rather than a little box that Apple has. And that stick comes with the HDMI in it, right? Here's the little HDMI part. So that literally sticks into your TV, an HDMI port on your television. Now it needs power. This device needs power, so it comes with this cord. So this cord here will stick into that device, and then the end will either stick into the power adapter, which you'll stick into an outlet, or if your television has a USB powered port, you could just stick it into the TV. Why would you do that? Well, maybe, it's just cleaner that way. Maybe you don't have enough electrical outlets, right? So if your TV has that, you would be done just hooking it up that way. And that's why you would do that, to get that power from that USB port on your television. And setting that up, that's it. That's all there is to it. And similar like Apple, you're then going to, open the input on your television to the port that you've stuck it into, and start using your remote to initially set up Roku. In Roku's case, they have a little button on the back to pair it with the Roku device, but that instruction comes in the box. And like Apple, you'll choose your language. You'll connect to the internet, you'll select your internet network, put in your network password, and then you're off and running and you are using Roku. So it is literally that easy. And last but not least, we've got the Chromecast. And guys, sort of like showing you the same picture, it's just a different picture of a logo of the company. Same process. In this case, and Chromecast stick experience, already has the HDMI built into the device. You stick that into an HDMI port, then you need power. You plug this into the device where it goes in there, and then the other part either goes into the wall or the back of your television if you have a powered port. And that is it. So